the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out.
Hello, Miami. Thank you so much for watching 305 Sports Now. We are now live on 305 Live, in which we'll be discussing what is the drama that is the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, Pat Riley versus Jimmy. Which one is going to win out? And the guest that I'm bringing on today, you guys know him if you love soccer, from the Battered Aarons podcast and a regular on 560 WQAM. Ladies and gentlemen, El Dani, better known to all of you as Daniel Solana. What's up, Danny? How's it going?
Pretty good, Will. It's glad to be back. It's been a while. It's been, I think, almost over a year since you had me on. I think last time I was on with my brother Alejandro, but It's nice to be back on here, and I'm excited to talk some Heat. It's been an absolute crazy year at the Kaseya Center and for the Heat front office. So I'm ready to get into it. I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for having me on, man.
No, it's always a pleasure. Like I love talking basketball with you and sports in general with you and your brother as well. You guys have been a great friend to me, a great friend of the show. So I'm always happy to have you on. I can't believe it's been a year since I had you on, man. Time flies. But I have to have you on more often, dude. This is way too much fun. But the last time we spoke before we organized today's episode, it was right before Christmas that we were just chiming it up a little bit. So I want to ask you before I start, how was your holiday?
Holiday was great, man. My son was 3 years old this year. He finally understands kind of what Christmas is. So it was beautiful to wake up in the morning. Actually, funny enough, we're talking basketball. My wife and I got him a basketball. Santa Claus got him a basketball hoop and a basketball and the Bam Adebayo shoes. So he is absolutely a diehard Miami Heat fan, and he is absolutely obliterated that I've been telling him that Jimmy Butler might possibly not be playing for the Miami Heat anymore. So he is absolutely heated about that.
Well, I mean, we all are. That's especially the trend that's been going on. Like, I have my feelings about it, and frankly speaking, I want him to go by and just go to another team and be a headache for somebody else, because the man just, listen, when he was on, but everywhere he goes, he seems to burn every single bridge of every single team he's been on. And everyone thought that this was the perfect marriage, because the whole thing with Jimmy was that he wasn't being coached enough or being, like motivated enough, or didn't play with tough basketball guys. Well, he got what he wanted in Miami. And again, he's burning another bridge. So do you feel the same way I do, or do you have a different take on Jimmy Butler?
I 100% feel the same way you do, except maybe I'm a little bit stronger. So I thought at the beginning of the season, when Jimmy came into training camp, he had his, pre-season interviews. He was saying all the right things. I thought for once he was going to be on the same page as the front office, as the rest of the team. He was going to buy fully into the culture this year, try to play as many games possible. But as the season started to dwindle and, play on, I could kind of see him. And as you know, Will, I'm a season ticket holder, have been for more than 25 years. Mm-hmm. I go to as many games as I can go to. And I could notice that Jimmy just wasn't all there. So, I mean, I have to say I haven't been on the Jimmy train probably since mid-November.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think the comments from Pat Riley about having to play during the offseason kind of triggered him a little bit? Because it's according to Jimmy, he wanted to be coached up, and I mean, he wants another max deal per se, or an extension to his contract. And you're not going to get that with Pat Riley if you're missing games. He's old school. And back when he played and he coached, they all played 82 games. The time management thing was not a thing. So do you think it's because of what was said prior to the season starting that Jimmy looks like he's checking out? Because it looks terrible, because when Spo calls timeout, he's off to the side while his teammates are getting the play in. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, I think we've seen this before with Pat Riley, right? We saw this about 10 years ago when LeBron James was here. He kind of called out, maybe not directly, but he called out some players on that team and said, we need to see that toughness from you. If you want to win, then we need to see that grit from you. And we saw what LeBron did. He left. He just didn't have the culture. And I think that's kind of what happened to Jimmy as well. Although with Jimmy, it could be a little bit different. Now, he was apparently complaining that Pat Riley didn't bring him enough help, but I think that's a load of hogwash. I mean, let's be real. The guy made it to 2 NBA finals by himself. He was assisted by some great players. Goran Dragic was part of that first team. Bam Adebayo was still a young piece on that team. And so was Tyler Hero growing into his role. But as the years progress, yes, has Pat Riley brought in the superstar that Jimmy Butler maybe wanted to play with? No, but it's also a tough league to do that. Obviously, there's a salary cap, and the Heat are not the type of team that are going to break their back for a player. The Heat have a culture. They have a style. They have basically, they know exactly what they're going to do from point A to point Z, and they're not going to, defer from that what it is that they're going to do. And I think that's what we've seen throughout this whole Jimmy Butler saga is Jimmy has wanted somebody else. Pat Riley is not going to break the bank to bring somebody when we don't know if he's going to even play the 82 games. So what is the point of breaking the bank and bringing all these players if your supposed number one, your star player, is only going to play 50 to 60 games a season, if that? Because I don't even think he played that many games last year. And he's also been injured in 2 of the 4 playoffs or 2 of the 5 playoffs that the Heat have been a part of.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the part where it's Pat Riley's fault later on in the show. But the one thing I do want to chime in a little bit is it's not like Pat hasn't tried. Okay, Damian Lillard should be a member of the Miami Heat. We know that Joe Cronin wanted the big boy Damian and sent him to Milwaukee. That's one. And other names I heard, from the that obviously rumored, but also from the fans on X and so on, was the whole Kyrie Irving was one guy too. Kyrie Irving does not fit in Miami's culture. I'm so sorry. He's a great player, but his bizarre behavior. At one point, he was missing games and stuff like that. He just doesn't fit in. And other players, I mean, let's face it. I love Mickey, but I understand him because at the end of the day, it's his money. He's not gonna go over the luxury tax, for anybody. So Pat Riley's working within a budget, and so is Andy Ellisberg for the most part within the team. So, but Pat Riley has tried. I mean, there's been rumors about Bradley Beal just didn't go together. Donovan Mitchell, that was a miss on Riley's part. I think maybe they're gonna do a little bit more to get him here, but that was a miss on Riley's part. But Damian Lillard, you can't blame Pat for Damian Lillard. That was all Joe Cronin really trying to big boy Damian and not allowing him to go to the Miami Heat.
Yeah, but Will, and looking back, if you really think about what that package would have been, I think it was Tyler Hero, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., maybe even Jovic. Like, it was a crazy package. At the end of the day, I'm much more happy with what it is that we have today on the roster than having Damian Lillard on this roster. I mean, I really, really love the growth that Niko Jovic has shown this year. Obviously, Tyler Hero, first-time All-Star. I mean, he's just playing, and we're going to talk about that later. He's just playing absolutely through the roof. But it goes to show, Jimmy, when he was in there, even after he was suspended and he, kind of came back and was reintroduced into the team, he was standing on the three-point line. He really wasn't trying. He was just kind of going through the motions. And that's not the type of player that you want within this Heat culture. Remember, this Heat culture is the toughest working, most conditioned, hardest, team in the NBA. I should probably know that since I've been a season ticket holder for so long. But for next show, I promise I'll remember that. But that's not what Jimmy is offering this team right now. So right now, the best thing to do is exactly what Pat Riley is doing, is separating him away from the team. And the Heat are playing right now. I was watching the game just before I got on with you, and the team just looks so much smoother without Jimmy. Not to say obviously having Jimmy on the court at his 100%, we wouldn't be better. I think we would. But the team just looks so much smoother playing. They look a lot more loose. When Jimmy's in there, it's almost like they're looking to defer to him or they're looking to see if something's okay. And I just really love the chemistry that the team is building without Jimmy on the roster. So I know we're going to get into some trade talk and stuff like that. There's some rumors that have actually just popped around over the last 30 minutes before we got on. So I'm excited to talk about that. But in terms of the whole Jimmy thing, yeah, I think it just went sour when, at the end of November, December, when something happened and nobody really knows what happened, but something happened within Jimmy Butler's head, and only Jimmy Butler can know that, right? I mean, he's shown up to preseason as an emo Jimmy once. He showed up as another crazy Jimmy once. So only Jimmy Butler knows the inner workings of his head. So I can't really point out where it went sour, but going back to what you asked earlier on in the segment, I mean, did what Pat Riley say over the summer affect Jimmy? 100%. I think, Will, that is 100% what happened.
Yeah, it's being a little bit too sensitive. By the way, Teacher's Craft, great analysis. Thank you so much. He's a good friend of mine, by the way, and he's a big fan of you and your brother. Just want to let you know that he really really likes Alejandro. He likes you as well. So big shout out to Mr. Bombardier. I'll see you tomorrow at work, sir. Second, let me get him out. There we go. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So, but on the surface, if you ask the casual fan, Jimmy Butler's numbers for 25 games are 54%, 36% from three, and he averages about 17 points per game. So it doesn't look that bad when you look at the numbers on the surface. But we all know what's going on the court, and we all know a little bit of what's going on in the sidelines as well. So now the question I want to ask you is there's been talks. I mean, I've heard it on several stations and so on about whether he should actually just trade him or just keep him, because he's rotted his reputation to the point where it may not be it might even be the best situation or best deal for Miami, because it looks like they're just trying to dump him. So should Miami trade him or pay him to stay home, even if it is for next year? He opts into his player deal.
I mean, I think at this point they have to trade him. Unfortunately, all the antics that he's been doing over the last 3 weeks, especially with his agent, and all the back and forth with all the reporters from ESPN and The Athletic. You hear Shams every day talking about a trade here and there. I think all that's done is bring down his value. So unfortunately, right now, the Heat don't have that big of a market to trade to. I know if Pat Riley could have offloaded him for something good, he would have. But unfortunately, there just hasn't been enough of a package that the Heat feel is good enough for Jimmy. Now, obviously, the last rumors that we have heard is, maybe a Bradley Beal, but that's not something that the Heat want. Why? The Heat want to have cap space in 2026,
yeah.
and Bradley Beal is signed to a long-term deal. Now, there's one player that's been rumored to be part of a trade, and actually, it was something that I was referring to just earlier. About 30 minutes before I got onto the show, I read that on The Athletic, it was reported that the Heat, the Golden State Warriors, and the Suns could be working a 3-team trade where Andrew Wiggins ends up in Miami, probably some picks. Jimmy Butler's probably going to end up in Phoenix, and I don't know what's going to be going to Golden State. But I would be okay with that. Why? I think Andrew Wiggins could be a decent role player for this team. Obviously, he's a good three. He's won a championship over with Golden State, so he's got the championship caliber. Now, is he going to be your number one dog? Obviously not, but he's definitely a guy that can get you a bucket when you need a bucket. He's a strong defender, and I think chemistry-wise, once he gets into the team and he sees what Heat culture is all about, I think he'll fit in really good. So if that's the case, that we end up getting Andrew Wiggins, I'd be okay with that. But I mean, seeing at what Mitch says, again, he's a kind of agreeing what he said with what I said. The issue is if he opts in, he opts into a $50 million contract. The only way that he can trade him is through some sort of sign and trade, or through some sort of trade where they're going to get some, trade exception back. And I just think for both sides, it would just be easier if they just divorced right now and they just went their own ways, kind of like how we talked about at the top of the hour, and really. Let's just let both start brand new, because obviously this is not going good for the Heat. Having him sit at home is just not good. It's $45 for $50 million. It's just sitting at home. I mean, it's just not good for the team, and it's not good for him either. I mean, he's really, really showing the NBA his true colors, and I don't think that the teams are liking that, because nobody's really wanting to trade for him, which is absolutely crazy, because about maybe 9-10 months ago, I would say that maybe there would have been 20 suitors out there for him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been a cancer this past season, and he's been a disease everywhere else he's been to. In some cases, he was justified. They felt like the young, he just didn't gel with younger players, and the coaching staff and other teams just didn't know how to coach him. But he's story right now in Miami is the fact that who he really is that whenever things don't go his way, he'll form a tantrum and he'll try to force his way out, as well. I do like the Andrew Wiggins. If he was to come over here, I'm sure Spo will find a role for him within the offense. And the last time when the Golden State Warriors won a championship, he played a very key role in getting them that championship. So I would like a Wiggins trade just for now, so that he could use that cap space to get someone in 2026 that could fit well with the young pieces that Miami has right now. So that's where I'm at with the whole, if Wiggins is to come to the team. I've heard rumors about Kevin Durant. Is there any validity to that, or is that just X being X?
I think that's X being X, only because, I mean, if Jimmy really, and he's got his heart set on the Suns. Let's be real. He only wants to go to Phoenix. And the reason
He wore the
wants to go to
shoes.
Phoenix, he did. He wore the shoes. He wore the hair. I mean, he painted his hair orange, purple. I mean, all the different colors that the Suns wear. I mean, he's basically said, I want to go there. Now, he wants to go there to play with Kevin Durant, not to go play with with Devin Booker. And I'm sure Devin Booker is going to be a great asset as well on that team. But I think the idea is for him to play with Kevin Durant. So, I mean, I would love a Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler swap 1-for-1. I'd even be willing to give them Jaime Jaquez Jr. if that were the case to get Kevin Durant, because I think Kevin Durant would put us in that 1A category, kind of where the Knicks are, kind of where excuse me, now I forget, Boston is. And I think Kevin Durant would put us at that level, but I just don't see that happening. Really, I think if Jimmy is going to go to Phoenix, it's going to be to play with Kevin.
Yeah, I agree with you, absolutely. The whole thing about Pat Riley, I will say it's been mostly on Riley's side, but you do have some detractors. One of the most vocal ones, of course, is the former Boston Celtic that pretended to be hurt when he was in a wheelchair, bring out wheelchairs. That's Paul Pierce. But everybody seems to be on the side of Pat Riley. Not everybody, but it's a good number tends to be on the side of Pat Riley. But one of the things that we've heard about him is, one, he's way too old school for today's NBA player. And number two, he's way too old and needs to retire. Where are you at as far as what the role Pat Riley fits into this whole situation? And do you think that regardless that he will come out top, especially with having someone like Pat Riley at the helm that's a very good executive historically?
Look, I think I've let it known on social media, let it known to all my friends. I am in Riley we trust guy. I love the Godfather. I don't buy that he's too old. Yeah, he's old, but the only thing that age gives you is experience and wisdom. Pat Riley has the wisdom. He's won 6 championships, or he's won more than that, but he won 6 as a coach, if I'm not mistaken. And at the end of the day, I mean, the Miami Heat franchise would not be where it's at today if it wasn't for Mickey bringing in Pat Riley in the 90s and absolutely just retransforming this organization. This organization was going nowhere in the 90s. And when Pat Riley came in, he instilled this Heat culture. He brought in Alonzo Mourning. He brought in Tim Hardaway, players like Vashawn Leonard, Jamal Mashburn, Dan Marley. And that's the type of player that we've seen Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, and even now, Mickey Arrison's son, who's now Nick Arison, who's now part of that team that makes decisions. That's the type of players that we've seen them bring in over the years, right? The hard-nosed players. And we really thought that Jimmy would be that, and he was for a few years, unfortunately. But look, at the end of the day, I trust in what Pat Riley does. Yeah, has he missed on a couple of draft picks? Yeah, he missed on Michael Beasley. Yeah, he missed on a couple other guys. But look, I say he's hit on Tyler Hero. He's hit on Bam Adebayo. He's definitely hit on Khalil Ware. And I mean, the list just continues to go on. Not only that, but I want to talk a little bit about the developmental stage that Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra and their staff has put in place. I don't think there's any other team in the league that brings up more undrafted rookies or undrafted players out of the G League or out of absolutely nowhere. Sometimes they pull them straight out of the sky and they turn out to be absolute studs. Yep. Duncan Robinson is one example. Now Pele Larson is on the team. He's another example. And I mean, again, the list goes on and on and on. One of the guys who I thought was going to have a big role on this team, unfortunately, he got injured for a second straight season, was Drew Smith, the point guard. He had a strong start to the year. Again, another guy who absolutely nobody has heard of. And these guys, they come to the Heat, they make the name for themselves, and then they leave and go get paid. How many Heat players do you know in the last, 3-4 years who have played for the Heat and have gone to go get paid somewhere else? The list is countless. I mean, and that all comes down to Pat Riley, not Jimmy Butler, not any LeBron James, not Dwayne Wade. It comes down to the front office and Pat Riley and what Eric Spoelstra does for this franchise.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And going back on Mitch's point, Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA because no one has taken players that from the G League in general that many teams didn't even want and made them into formidable pieces into a championship team. And many of them have gone on. You're right; they've gotten paid, but they haven't been as successful as they were with Miami. You've had your handful, a couple guys here and there that have been good for the teams, but mainly they have not had the same success as when they were in Miami. My take on Pat Riley, listen, I'll be very direct with you, and I'm going to sound very old school when I say this, but the bottom line, this is the same for the NFL, for Major League Baseball, for the National Hockey League, and the NBA. Organizations with structure that have a formula and a consistent formula that's continuous, that's continuity, they win. Hands down, okay? Order and continuity are what make franchises very successful. The Spurs for many years, and I still think they're still pretty good. They just have to find the right pieces. The Miami Heat are very orderly as well. If you go to the NFL, the Steelers, the Chiefs. Okay, if you go to hockey, the Florida Panthers are a team that you can tell there's a structure and there's an order and there's a culture within that team. And the bottom line is, though, with the Miami Heat, that is what it is. It's a team that expects everybody and its star players to act a certain way and to play hard and be there when it counts. And that is, I'm sorry, it's not for everybody. And at the end of the day, it wasn't for Jimmy, but it was good enough for Dwayne Wade that Dwayne Wade even said at times when he went to Chicago, it's like, damn, this is different. It's like the cultures are just different, different teams. The grass wasn't green on the other side. Came back and had a nice little run. So the bottom line is,
the other day, they interviewed Dwayne Wade the other day about Pat Riley, and he even said, "Hey, Riles ain't going to change for nobody."
Yeah,
he didn't do it.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't. He could drop rings, and he could drop rings as a coach, as a player, and as an executive. He's won championships in 3 different scenarios in the NBA. As a player, as a defensive specialist for the Lakers, he won as a coach, all right, as well, and changed his style as well. People forget that they went from Showtime to I'm gonna beat you up Knicks and the grinding Heat, and then the Shaq Heat as well with Dwayne Wade. He's changed his style to acclimate to his players, so he's not that old and stuck in his ways. Good coaches, great coaches thrive, in changing culture, and he's one as an executive. I'm sorry, like you can say what Paul Pierce can say whatever he wants. Shaq's another one who can say whatever he wants, but at the end of the day, who had Pat Riley's one with the rings, and he's been successful, and he's made it work with players contractually and even in trades. So I'm sorry, I 100% side with Pat Riley, and Jimmy Butler looks like an overgrown child, and he needs to go. He needs to go and torture some other team, because I'm sorry, thank you for the finals runs, but I'm sorry, that's just not gonna cut it for me.
I'm 100% with you. And to be honest, I think the greatest thing that Pat Riley ever did for the Miami Heat franchise was bring in Eric Spoelstra as a video coordinator and build him up to be this coach that he has been. Because I think Eric Spoelstra, when it's all said and done, might go down as one of the top 5 coaches to ever coach in the NBA.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. And of course, it's just rumor, but there's a lot of evidence for it. When supposedly LeBron went to Riley, basically saying to replace Spo, and Riley just told make it work. Thank God he said that, because Eric Spoelstra is a top 5 coach, and he's going to be. By the way, he's probably going to be the next coach of the USA men's basketball team in the next Olympics as well, because Kerr's done. So I mean, we're going to be okay. Life without Jimmy Butler is going to be just fine. When the Miami Heat get a star, like a true star, and so on, this team is going to be again competing for championships, and that's where we need to be. Speaking of guys that Riley has brought in and drafted, Tyler Hero, he's always been the subject of trade rumors. He's always been hurt. I called it. He hit the gym this summer, and he hit the gym this summer, and it's been working for him because he's been on a bit of a tear, averaging 24 points a game, over 5 assists, and shooting 39% from 3. Okay, as well. He had a great game, 30 points and 12 assists versus Orlando. What have you seen from Tyler Hero this season that's been different than from seasons past?
Number 1, his defense. Number 2, his endurance. Number 3, his drive and the way that he plays the game, where he's looking more to drive to the basket. You see him getting a lot easier shots, and that opens up the 3-point game for him. Spoelstra, without naming any names, compared him to an actual superstar in the league, where he can get his shot off almost at any time. And I'm starting to see flashes of that superstar within Tyler Hero. I think he deservedly was voted by the coaches as a all-star reserve. I don't think that there is another player right now who is as hot as he's been, except for the last game. Last game, he didn't play that well. But other than that, he's been on an absolute hot streak over the last few months. And you said it. The biggest thing is that he's been healthy. He's been healthy. And I don't know if it was you, Will. I don't know if it was you that got him the gym pass. You got him an LA Fitness pass, or I don't know. Do they still have 24-hour fitness? A Shaq 24-hour? I don't know if they still have.
His agent called me and said, "Will, what can I do, man? What can I do to get my boy jacked?" And I said, "Yeah, listen, listen, LA Fitness over here in Broward. He's got to work out there, and that's it, man. He's got to hit that. They have a lot of benches, man. They can just hit that bench."
Absolutely no, but he's just been on an absolute.
Yeah, he has.
I didn't expect him. I thought this year was going to be Bam's year, to be honest with you. I thought this was going to be Bam's team this year, but Tyler has really stepped it up. To me, Bam has had a on and off type of season, an up and down type of season, not the offensive output that you would expect, but Tyler Hero has been putting this Heat team on his back for the entire year, and you can see it not only with his shooting abilities, but like you said, he had 12 assists the other night. I mean, he's dishing the ball, he's finding his teammates, and I mean, just watching him earlier before I got on, I mean, he had 2 or 3 plays where he was driving to the basket, he made a fake pass and had a wide open layup. I mean, he's just playing out of his mind, and he's finally hit this pre-superstar stretch, and we can expect him to become the superstar that we thought that he was going to be when we first drafted him.
Yeah, he had his moments a couple times last year because he's always a subject to trade rumors, but he handled it like a pro in the end, and it's paying dividends because now it's like we're glad we kept him because he's been a vital piece for this team. Especially, he's been a bright spot through all this turmoil we've had, like I would say for the last month. Before we get into Bam, I want to talk about Khalil Ware. Khalil Ware's another one that's been lighting it up a bit. The Miami Heat rookie. Last 10 games, 52% from the field, 41% from threes, and almost 92% from the free throw line. Is this the answer that Miami fans are waiting for, where finally Bam could be a true 4, and now Khalil Ware could be could play the 5 and give Bam a break, against the league centers?
I think so. Obviously, he's still very young. He still makes a lot of rookie mistakes where he has turnovers. Sometimes he gets into foul trouble early in games. But the games where he's out there and he's on the court, I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with. He can stretch the floor. He can hit the 3, which is fantastic because it gives Bam the opportunity to work inside the paint. Also, it allows our players like Terry Rozier, like Triple J, like Tyler Hero to drive to the basket, kick out to him. He can make the 3. Earlier in the game, he had 7 straight points. He had a dunk, a 2-pointer, and a 3-pointer. And those are the types of things that he's going to give us in the offense. Now, on the defensive side, that's where he's going to help us out the most. Why? He gives us the rim protector that we've been missing for so many years since basically since Chris Bosh was gone and we had, some sort of a mini rim protector. I guess the last rim protector we had was Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's brutal. But I think Khalil Ware is the rim protector that we need. He now allows Bam to go out and guard a little bit more on the perimeter. And I love the chemistry that he's built with Niko Jovic. They have this 2-man game where it's a pick and roll, and 9 times out of 10, he's throwing the alley-oop. And wow, Niko Jovic is an absolute excellent passer. He is an unbelievable passer because he lofts it up there just as good as any point guard I've seen in the NBA. He does it better than Terry Rozier. I've seen Terry Rozier overthrow Khalil Ware a couple times. So, look, I love Khalil Ware. I think he's earned his spot to start on this team. He's shown flashes of where he can be great. He had a 30-point game earlier this year where he was just nailing triples during the entire game. If he continues on this, yeah, I think he's the answer. And I think you can start building a team around Khalil, Bam, Tyler, and you're missing 1 or 2 other pieces. But that's really a nice, I guess, starting point. Again, we're not rebuilding. The Heat never rebuild. We always retool. But that's a good starting point where you can retool next year. And now with the summer of 2026 coming, you're going to have some cap space, hopefully. You can have those 3 guys and add a superstar. Watch out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And again, a credit to Miami Heat scouting, that they just they picked this young man up. And And I was happy when they picked him up because, again, Miami needed a true five, and Bam was playing out of position a bit. But I want to talk a little bit about Bam. Bam will still give you. It's always been like that. He'll give you that one game where he's 28 and 14, and he'll go back to 15-10. He's still a double machine. But Daniel has he hit a ceiling, or do you think he's just not? He's not doing more offensively because he's trying to get other players involved?
I don't think he's hit a ceiling. I think he still has a little bit more to give. I think he's trying to work his way into this new rotation that Spo is going with Khalil Ware at center. He's trying to find his spots. Obviously, one of the aspects that he worked on his game in the offseason was the 3-point shot. I thought we were going to see him take 3 to 5 a game. Some games he does take a few, some games he doesn't, but he hasn't made them as consistently as I normally see him make them in the warmups. Now, obviously, offensively, Bam hasn't reached where we all think he's going to reach, but defensively is where you just cannot pass that up. I mean, what he does defensively for this team, he is the defensive anchor on the team. He can cover 1 through 5, and I know that Hawk and Crowder were just railing on my brother Alejandro about this last week because my brother loves Bam Adebayo, and he says that Bam it could still be the face of the franchise, and I still think he is the face of this franchise. He doesn't necessarily have to be the 25 and 12 guy in order to be the face of this franchise. He can always be the culture guy and be the face of this franchise. Obviously, they were comparing him to Udonis Haslem, but I think Bam is a little bit better offensively than Udonis Haslem. I think defensively, UD was a lockdown defender, but Bam can cover 1 through 5. So that to me is what makes Bam special and makes him different. And as long as he continues delivering on the defensive end, I think the Heat has enough on the offensive end when they're rolling to beat some of the best teams in the NBA.
Yeah, Channing Crowder is funny though, because when he has it in for a player, he has it in for that player. Like poor Chris Bosh was Jar Jar Binks for a long time, when he was playing in Miami. So Bam's really gonna have to have a consistent game every 34 game every day, for Channing to change his mind. But I agree with your brother, and your brother's very much locked in with the team because he covers them. And I do think Bam's going to be that guy, and I think he just needs to step up more on offense, and I think he can, but I think he defers many times with other teammates. He has a beautiful arch to his shot, and it's interesting how he doesn't take the threes more often, and they don't splash down more often because his shot is very nice. He has a nice arch to it. So I thought he would have more 3-pointers made this year, but he hasn't. But again, Khalil Ware, hopefully that now that synchronization between those two, that now he knows he could do that more often because he's got Khalil in the bottom, or he could drive in and kick it to Khalil as well, because I like what I've seen. I've had trouble seeing games this year because I don't have the FanDuel package on Xfinity, but when I've seen when they're on Max or TNT, I've been, even in losses, I've been impressed because even when they don't win, you could tell they're well coached because the shots just aren't going down, but the shots are there, and all they have to do is go down, and that's gonna be a very different team. There's a lot of basketball left too. The Heat currently, they are in 6th place in the Eastern Conference, and there's a lot of teams nipping at their heels. After the whole saga with Jimmy's over, hopefully it will be over by February 6th. Do you think the Heat have enough in them to make a run to be able to get a decent playoff spot, or are they going to be a play-in team this year again?
I think they have a chance to make a run for it. I mean, obviously, with Spo as the coach, the Heat were the 8th seed a couple years ago, and they made it to the NBA Finals. So I think any team that's coached by Spo has a chance to make any type of run. I remind myself of the year, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy, but the year that we had Deion Waiters, and we made that crazy run where we won, I think, 30 of the last 45 games or something like that, and he ended up getting a crazy contract out of that, which was absolutely nuts. But I think about those teams, and I see a lot of this team like those teams back then. Somebody, the teams that didn't have a superstar on them, teams that had a lot of very good players. Now, on February 6th, once we figure out what's going to happen with Jimmy, I think I'll have a better idea. If you're asking me today, you put a gun to my head, Solana, are we going to make the playoffs? Or are we going to go into the play-in? I'm going to say we're going to make the playoffs as at least a top 7 seed. Now, in a couple days, when we see what happens with the Jimmy saga, I might change my mind. I might tell you, hey, I think we're going to be a top 3 seed. It all depends on who we get within this Jimmy trade, who we let go. And I'm really excited for the next 48 hours. I mean, I'm going to be stuck to my phone. My wife is probably going to murder me, but I'm going to be stuck to my phone following the Jimmy saga. And really on February 6th, around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, when we find out what everything is going on, I'll send you a text and I'll give you exactly what my opinion is going to be on where the Heat will finish this year.
Perfect, man. I'll be waiting for it. And I'll announce it for everybody as well. Thank you so much. My perspective is, man, Pat Riley's done this before. He's pulled a rabbit out of his hat before. And speaking of Whiteside, he traded him for nothing, basically, and he traded, and it was a very nasty contract that Portland picked up. That's probably why they didn't want to give us, Damian Lillard's revenge for Hassan Whiteside, as well. Just kidding. But anyways, so I do think that Riley does. I don't think Riley wants to waste the season. And I think something will happen. He's done it before, like I said several times. He's made space. Whatever he's needed to do, he's done, to say the least. And Dani, anything coming up for us, sir, that they want to plug?
No, I'm just always on the Battered Herons. We're on every week. Also, now it's called Garzas CF, where we do Inter Miami shows in Spanish. Also, like Will said at the top of the hour, I'm on the weekends with Dan Day on Sports Daily. So, if you ever want to catch a listen, you can catch me on one of those platforms. Or if you want to give me a follow at Dani Solana 5 on Twitter or X, whatever people call it nowadays. On Instagram, I'm always throwing some shade or some interesting information, basketball, usually Heat and Inter Miami. Those are my 2 go-tos. But every once in a while, I'll throw some Dolphin stuff out there, a little bit of Tua hate, a little bit of here and there. So, thank you for having me on. Honestly, it's been a blast. I want to do it again. Let's do it before the playoffs. That way,
definitely.
We can do kind of like a rewind of how we were today on February 4th and how we're going to be right before the playoffs.
Right. So, okay. So you brought something up before I let you go, since you mentioned Tua hate. Okay, I got to ask you a question. I am in favor of the Miami Dolphins not just drafting a backup quarterback, but potentially the backup quarterback being Tua's replacement. What do you think about that?
I've been on the let go of Tua train since we drafted him. I thought he was not the right quarterback for this team. I didn't buy into the fact when he, led the league in passing. I just don't think he's the right quarterback for this team. Obviously, those are my personal opinions. I'm not a football guru. I just watch the Dolphins every single week. But personally, I'm with you. I would prefer for them to draft a quarterback or bring a veteran in to replace him, because if he can't play an entire season, if he gets knocked down and gets a concussion, I mean, you can't have Snoop Huntley as your backup. No hate on Snoop Huntley. I think he did okay for, basically getting thrown in there. But look, I just don't think Tua's the guy. And I do agree. You do need an offensive line, but Tua just holds on to the ball too long, man. He just holds on to the ball too long.
Yeah, Mitch, I'm with you. I like Tua. I like Tua. I like his leadership. I like him as a player. I like him as a person. But I'm so sorry, but he's always hurt. He's always hurt. And some occasions when there's busted coverages, he can't get the ball to the receiver because he just doesn't have the arm strength. I'm a Jackson Dart guy over from Ole Miss. Jackson Dart is mobile. He's got a good arm. He played in a very competitive conference in the SEC, like Tua did, of course. But Tua had a very good team surrounding him in Alabama, whereas Jackson Dart was a major component of his team over there in Ole Miss. So I do think that they need to draft his replacement, because your franchise quarterback can't miss 6 games a season. I mean, it's just not going to work, and it gets you, and then you're not going to make the playoffs. So I do think that Miami should draft a quarterback with a better arm and a more durable quarterback and a potential replacement. No shade on Tua. I like Tua. I hope he's successful this year. Also successful, in general. I do agree with the offensive line. I do think we need more guards, and I think we need a power back. That's why I'm an advocate of drafting Damian Martinez from the Miami Hurricanes. And we do need guard play. We need a power back that get the 4th and 1, help Tua out in that capacity. McDaniel, yes, McDaniel.
No,
I'm sorry, was that?
no tush push with Tua.
No tush push. No, not with him. Not with him. For the love of God, no. Not with him. He'll get squashed in the tush. It's like, you end up like, no. So yeah, I agree with I agree about McDaniel. McDaniel is a product of the coaching tree that doesn't allow coordinators to call plays. Okay, under Kyle Shanahan. So I agree with you on that. But I like to see Coach McDaniel get a chance with a better line. That's what I do want to see. Because if you saw Liam Eichenberg, this season, he ended up like 5 yards back every single time a D tackle touched him. So I hope to see him on the better line. But the bottom line is, I don't think Tua has it. Listen, Dave Woodley was a good quarterback. I know I'm dating myself here, but Dave Woodley was a good quarterback. But like Joe Rose said, told Coach Shula, let the curly hair get a shot. And we got Dan Marino. So if the next quarterback can be your franchise quarterback, and Tua could be successful in another team, but maybe win, maybe not win a Super Bowl. We'll see. But the bottom line is, though, I just don't think Tua is is a quarterback of the future, mainly because of his injuries, and I don't think he has the arm strength that the modern NFL needs for you to be a franchise quarterback. Because if you notice, mostly every single quarterback that was in the playoffs this year had a gun. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts has a very good arm. Pat Mahomes could throw from any angle, as well. Sidearming, he'll still take it 50 yards. Tua doesn't have it, and he can't play in cold weather. He freezes. The ball ices up, and it becomes a shot put for him.
Even the quarterback from Denver, who started off, and I forgot his name, but Bo Nix, who started off kind of rough, but he played fantastic. I mean, he had a great season. And not to get away from the Dolphins, I know you're a big Canes guy, Will. Mm-hmm. I want to know what you think about Beck coming to Miami.
Yeah. Georgia fans are very spoiled, and they wanted to get rid of him. I know he had a lot of interceptions this year. My only concern about Beck is the injury, which is similar to it's not a Tommy John, but it's like similar to a Tommy John. He's ahead of schedule, and as you will know, timing is everything with your receivers, and he probably won't begin throwing until after spring. So he's gonna be doing a lot of mental reps. What the hell that is? A lot of mental reps, watching a lot of film. So that's my biggest concern. But I do think that the Miami's offensive line is going to help a lot because the Canes have the best O-line in the ACC and a top 5 line in the country. He's going to have good running backs, very good tight ends still, even though they lost Riley Williams and they're losing Arroyo to the draft. Lofton is a good tight end. They picked up another good tight end as well in the transfer portal. Brock Schott, the true freshman, is probably going to get some reps. He has some similarities to Jeremy Shockey physically, what people are saying in terms of his route running as well. The receivers, although young, they're pretty good, and I do think that they'll also get better as the season progresses. And we're still waiting for another receiver in the transfer portal. Miami's not done yet getting receivers, so I like Beck. I like the experience. He's only lost 3 games in college. Let's put that in perspective. He's only lost 3 games in college. Came from a very good program. He's gonna have a very good offensive line. He's gonna have very good running backs. I think if Miami's defense plays well, not what we saw, this past season. Miami could win 9 to 10 games. I still predict they could do that because they have Notre Dame as the opener. I think it's the best time to get Notre Dame. I think we could beat Florida at home, and we'll see how the rest. I think like Louisville's always a toss-up. Virginia Tech's always a toss-up because they always play Miami tough. But I'm okay with Beck. I think that he's best. He's the best of what we got in the portal. For what the circumstances are. What do you think about Beck?
I'm excited, man. When I heard he was coming, obviously the injury concerns me, just like you said, but when you talk about mental reps, I'm not sure if you read the article about Jaden Daniels, but apparently when Jaden Daniels was at LSU, he did some sort of like AI or some virtual reality type of training or whatever. So it could be similar to that. And he said that it really helped him out a lot, where he wore like these goggles and it was actual game situations. Not only that, but he was playing game situations at 1.5 times faster than what the actual game situation was going on. So he was already expecting some of those things. So maybe Carson Beck, maybe Beck is going to do something like that. I don't know, but I'll tell you this, I'm super excited. I feel like Miami is finally back to being quarterback after having Cam Ward for a year, now bringing in this huge signing in the transfer portal. I'm excited, especially with the season that we have planned for next year. I mean, FSU, UF, and Notre Dame in 1 year. Could it be a much better year for a Canes fan, especially if we win all 3 of those games?
Yeah, what I hope happens, unfortunately, I don't know if you remember this, when Tennessee had Peyton Manning. They could have won a national championship because they can never get past Florida. Mitch is a Florida fan who went to Florida. They had T. Martin the following year, and they actually won the national championship. So I'm kind of hoping that's kind of the scenario that we're in. That we had Cam Ward, and by no means it was not his fault what happened, because the defense averaged 30 plus points a game against power 4 teams. It was just bad. If Miami would have had the defense that they had the year before, when you had Cam Kitchens and James Williams, I know I could be a little exaggeratory here, but I do think they would have gone on a national championship game. You could not stop that Miami offense. So if they had like just a regular top 25 defense, I don't see why they couldn't be Notre Dame or couldn't be Ohio State. But this year, I mean, you can only go up. And if Miami's defense plays better, I'm excited, and I do think Miami will win between 9 and 10 games. That only because there's a little bit of inexperience at the wide receiver position, and you might have a hiccup or two. But that's pretty much it. Or make a play, or even make a playoff run. We'll see what happens. But I'm very excited about Miami. I'm always excited about Miami, and the future looks bright because Luke Nichols is a stud. I don't know if you know a little bit about him, the true freshman out of Milton, Georgia, 2-time state champion. He was like 98% in the state championship game, and like 1 incomplete pass, if I'm not mistaken, with like 4 touchdown passes. And the kid behind him is just as good, who they're comparing to like a mini Cam Ward because athleticism and arm strength, Darian Coleman. So the future looks bright for Miami. And Mark Cristobal is not a quarterback killer, despite what some of the fan base says. Justin Herbert, even then, was a top 10 pick, and Cam Ward is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft if Tennessee's smart. So, it is what it is.
That's awesome. I'm glad that we didn't only get to talk Heat. We talked a little Dolphins. We talked a little Canes. And, dude, it's been fun. It's been absolutely fun. Likewise,
man. So now I'm going to bring you on. So it's not just a Heat thing now. I'm bringing you on now to talk about the Dolphins. So you just invited yourself. Yeah. Well, I'm inviting you, obviously. We're doing Canes talk with you, and we're gonna do Dolphins talk with you and Heat talk. So get ready, Dani. You'll be hearing more from me this season.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. I'm always available. Love talking sports, especially with you.
Thanks, man.
And also, and the show is awesome. So keep it going, and I'll be back in April so we can talk some more Heat.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And if you want, time permitting, because I have a couple people booked. But if you want, even after the trade deadline, we could do a short. You come on and you can chime a little bit about what you think about the trade. Like a little short, little 5-10 minute analysis of the whole Jimmy Butler bye-bye thing and so on. Which hopefully is a bye-bye.
Yeah. Let's work it out. We'll offline. We'll get in touch and we'll do it.
Yeah. By the way, Mitch has a message for me. I try, man. Just too many sports I'm doing right now. But yeah, man, I'm trying, man. But thank you, Mitch, for the love, man. Yeah, that's one thing, Dani, man. He is the soccer guru of WQAM, and I think of all the podcast sphere over here amongst the Miami podcasters, okay? Dani, thank you so much for joining us, man. Say hi to your brother for me and the entire family. Very happy to have you on. You're always welcome on the show for any type of conversation you want to have. And yes, I need you to re-educate me on the lovely world of football.
We will. We'll have a show at some point during the season, and we'll talk some football. Don't worry.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. All right, everybody, if you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports Now. And do not forget to subscribe to the Battered Herons over on YouTube. And do not forget to catch Daniel Solana El Dani on WQAM every weekend on 560 WQAM. If you can't get it on radio in your car like me, because now all of a sudden QM has disappeared from my car, you could get it on the Odyssey app. It's perfectly free. And it's always available. And you can even rewind the shows and even focus on clips as well. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, good night. Thank you for watching 305 Sports Now here on 305 Live. Bye, everybody.